In the high desert of northern New Mexico, a strange recovery story begins with a wreckage site that was said to be too clean, too quiet, and too unusual to forget. What exactly fell there, and why did so many people later argue over what was taken away? Aztec sits in a landscape shaped by wind, distance, and long memory, where a single rumor can travel farther than a paved road. In the late 1940s, that remoteness gave the claim its power. The case belongs to the early post-war years, when the sky had become a place of anxiety, wonder, and constant watching. Every unusual light could be read as technology, weapon, or something not yet understood. According to the enduring story, men working in the area came upon an object and a recovery operation that moved with unusual speed. From the beginning, the account was less about a crash than about what happened after the crash. That distinction matters because the Aztec claim is not only about a strange object in the sand. It is about secrecy, transport, and the unsettling idea that something extraordinary may have been handled before the public ever knew it existed. The background is important too. In those years, reports of unusual craft were spreading across the American West, and newspapers were hungry for the next impossible headline. Into that atmosphere stepped one of the most controversial crash recovery stories ever told. The Aztec claim took shape through testimony, second-hand accounts, and later retellings that never fully agreed on every detail. Yet the core image stayed the same: a large disc-like object, broken or recovered, and people who believed they had seen evidence of something not made on Earth. What keeps the story alive is not just the object itself, but the sense that the recovery happened in layers. First the sighting, then the retrieval, then the quiet removal of the most important pieces. Supporters of the claim point to the scale of the alleged craft, which was said to be far larger than a simple experimental machine. If true, it would have required planning, equipment, and a level of coordination that is difficult to dismiss. They also emphasize the reported material itself: smooth surfaces, unusual construction, and a form that seemed to belong to no familiar aircraft of the time. The impression was not of wreckage from a known warplane, but of engineering from elsewhere. Another detail that lingers is the alleged speed of the response. In the retelling, people arrived quickly, secured the area, and moved fragments before curiosity could settle in. That kind of urgency can make an ordinary event feel extraordinary. Then there is the problem of distance. Aztec was not a place where large secrets were easy to hide forever, yet the story suggests that whatever happened there was absorbed into silence, rumor, and private memory, rather than open record. For believers, that silence is part of the evidence. They argue that a mundane explanation would not need so many moving parts, while a truly unusual recovery might leave behind exactly this kind of fractured trail. The strongest version of the claim rests on a simple idea. Too many people, across too many years, described a large object that did not fit the known machines of the era. Even without perfect records, the consistency is hard to ignore. And yet the case also carries the marks of a story that grew as it was repeated. Details shift, names blur, and later accounts sometimes sharpen the drama beyond what the earliest evidence can firmly hold. That is where the Aztec claim becomes especially interesting, because uncertainty does not erase the central puzzle. It simply forces the question to become more precise. What exactly was seen, and by whom? Some investigators have suggested that parts of the story were shaped by misidentification, exaggeration, or the pressures of a sensational era. A damaged aircraft, a training accident, or a chain of rumor could have been transformed into something far stranger. That reading has weight because the late 1940s produced confusion, secrecy, and a public primed to see hidden technology everywhere. A dramatic tale could grow fast when official explanations arrived late or felt incomplete. Still, the Aztec story never vanished, and that endurance matters. Some cases fade because they are simple. This one persists because it leaves behind a feeling that the official shape of events never quite fit the emotional weight of the reports. The most compelling element may be the human one. Witnesses and later researchers describing a sense that something was moved, hidden, or absorbed into the system before the public could examine it. That is where curiosity deepens into unease. If the object was conventional, why did the story gather such lasting force? If it was not, then the absence of clean documentation becomes part of the mystery rather than the end of it. That tension is why Aztec remains one of the most talked about alleged recoveries in UFO history. It sits between testimony and uncertainty, where the imagination of the era meets the stubbornness of a place that kept its secrets well. The ordinary explanation may account for some of the confusion, but it does not fully dissolve the atmosphere around the case. There is still the question of why this particular story endured when so many others were forgotten. Part of the answer may lie in the setting itself. New Mexico has long been a place where military testing, open sky, and ancient landscape overlap, making it a natural stage for stories about advanced visitors and hidden knowledge. Another part lies in the way the story was told, not as a neat report, but as a chain of fragments carried by people who believed they were protecting something bigger than themselves. That gives the claim a strange and lasting gravity. Even today, the Aztec crash claim invites two different kinds of attention at once. One is skeptical, asking for records, dates, and physical proof. The other listens for the possibility that the most important evidence was never meant to survive in public view. That is why the case still feels unfinished. The fragments of testimony, the alleged recovery, and the missing certainty all point toward a single unresolved center that refuses to settle into one explanation. Perhaps the truth was a misread accident, shaped by rumor and the hunger for meaning. Or perhaps something genuinely unusual passed through that landscape, leaving behind only traces strong enough to keep the question alive. What remains is the uneasy space between those possibilities. Aztec endures because it asks us to decide how much mystery a place can hold before it becomes part of history itself. And if something was recovered there that never belonged to ordinary aviation, then the silence around it may be as important as the object itself. That is the haunting center of the Aztec claim, and it still has not given up its answer. For all the contradictions, the story survives because it feels like a doorway left half open. We can explain parts of it, question parts of it, and still sense that something essential may have slipped beyond the record. That is the enduring power of the Aztec UFO crash claim. Not certainty, but the possibility that a remote desert once held a secret larger than the story we were given. For now, the question remains in the sky above New Mexico.